do have these challenges. And the reason you find that they have them is because the facility manager is hardly invited to join the team when they're designing, right? So when you're actually building, you must have a facility manager or the facility manager that you intend to, give out your project to in the long run, so that they become part of the design phase. Because remember, construction is going to leave. Theirs is just to construct, develop, and then hand over to the end user. The end user will now be the one to be responsible for that property, whether it's a facility manager or whether it's the owner of the building or whatever. If you have no idea of what has been constructed or what has been put on ground for you, you will end up always having difficulties. And then if you are, do I say unfortunate? I don't know whether that's the right word to use at this point, not to have a developer that that communicates or is in touch or stays visible within his construction, then it becomes a big problem for you. Because half the time you have to try as much as possible to get information from them, but you can't find them. So it actually leaves you in a bit of a quagmire. So it's for us to try do I say for us? Yes, to try as much as possible to change the narrative. And when I'm talking about us, I'm talking about facility managers. Because whether we like it or not, we are a recognized profession. The same way you have architects, the same way you have engineers, a facility manager is a recognized practitioner of his profession. So we have to be able to change that narrative. I saw one hand up again. Maybe I'll just take this last one and then continue. Gideon, is the hand still up?
Yes, we have the hand of Emmanuel Dotson.
Okay.
Why are we having so many hands up at this point? Do you guys have questions?
Yeah, so we'll take one more and then we'll just break it in phases, and then just please note the people that put their hands up.
Yeah,
and then we can take the next one.
We'll take Emmanuel Dotson now.
Yes.
Jeff Emmanuel and Daniel Bina, just leave your hands up for now and just jot down your question. So Emmanuel Dotson, please unmute and speak.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Deleke Emmanuel. Now, straight to what I experienced and handing over process. I noticed construction people, they are not always concerned about the running. And in fact, they don't put to consideration the running, the management, and the smooth running of what they are delivering. All they just want to do is it is the site is on operation. Like a site I took over at a certain time, I had issue with the water system. What the construction just did that to make sure water gets into the building, they were less concerned about how it should operate without much effort. Imagine the overhead tank, the provision for a floating switch was not provided. The water system was not done in an automatic way. And to run a kind of site like that, it looked very difficult. And when I would get there, everywhere had been finished, the interlock had been done. Now to reprocess it now looks very difficult. And up to the moment, the site has been like that, because for it to be redesigned, they have to spend much money, and the property has been sold to the owners. The owners have started staying there. Now, going back to that process looks much difficult for them, and that's how the site has been till now. So I think that's one problem we used to face with the construction people. They just want the site to be run. They don't look at the maintenance and the easy running of the site.
Emmanuel, please, I'm just going to ask you to go back a bit, but just please give me a minute. I'm just changing my my internet. It just went off. So please just give me a little minute while I just go back to the internet. Can you all hear me? Apologies for that.
Yes, you're audible, ma. Can hear you.
Sorry, just give me a minute. I'm just going to change the network. Okay, am I still clear?
You are very clear, ma.
Okay, so Emmanuel, I'm just sorry, I didn't hear that part of what you said. Can you just do a quick rundown for me?
Now, I said construction companies sometimes all they just want to make work done, and they don't look at the maintenance and the smooth running. In fact, in quotes,
Oh, it's
smooth
not clear.
running.
Is it my network?
Possibly your network.
Is the
Emmanuel
network
is
clear?
clear. Yeah.
I can hear you clearly.
I can hear you too clearly.
I can also hear Emmanuel clearly.
Okay, sorry. Just let me see if I can change another network. Emmanuel, I heard you, but you were just breaking. I don't know whether it's me or sorry, please give me another minute. I'll just change this. Apologies, please.
So while we wait for our host to get her internet sorted, please, every other person, kindly just jot down your questions so that at the point where she opens up for us to ask questions, we'll be able to ask. Then I would also appeal that we'll make our questions direct so that we could quickly get a direct answer. Yes, ma, you're welcome back, ma'am.
Okay, so sorry about that. There was just some interruption there with my internet. I hope I can be heard clearly by everyone.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, I hear you
fantastic.
clearly.
Okay, sorry, Emmanuel. Can you just let me know what you were saying? And then we'll continue with the presentation and then take our questions afterwards.
Yeah, I said what I was trying to explain is that construction workers being less concerned about the smooth running of the estate after their work. All they are just mostly concerned is just okay, the running, forgetting that there is something that is different between smooth running and just running, and also the maintenance part. And I stated a case study of an estate where I took over from the construction workers after they are already done. I discovered that the water system, the overhead tank has no floating switch. Even the water system itself is not designed to be operated automatically. So that gave the concern a lot to the estate. So they're now thinking of having a redesign of it. The cost alone is putting the residents putting them at check, leaving the estate like that, which has been a problem to the estate up to now. So I think
Up to now.
construction workers are less. These are the things that assuming they carry the facility management from the beginning, should have been sorted out and redesigned from the beginning. But now it has left the estate in jeopardy up to now. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to make a comment on this, and then please let this be something that we all take home. Let us try as much as possible, even if we're not going to be called in the early stage or the design stage, and you're taking over a facility, make sure you collect handover notes. Collect handover notes and make sure you collect as-built drawings. Please, it is very key. These documentation, you must insist that you're going to get this from people, because the construction company or the developer, depending on who they are, I'm not saying that everybody is bad, and I'm not painting everybody with one brush, but most times you find that when they had done with their work, they don't want to go back to site. As far as they're concerned, they finished their project and they've moved ahead. They don't want to go back there. So we'll continue to talk about these things, but please, let's take note of these two documentations that I've spoken about: handover notes and as-built drawings. So we talk about performance discrepancies. Buildings often underperform due to gap between the predicted and actual performance. This one, I know we will agree with it, because there is no way that you have a building, you can have expectations, right? You can have expectations because you will believe that everything has been put in place for a building. You expect to have a toilet in a building, you expect to have a kitchen, you expect to have electrical works, you expect to have everything there. But remember, there are things in that building that can fail at any point in time, right? Those things can happen. So you may predict one thing, and then 2 weeks down the line or 3 weeks down the line, you now begin to have issues, right? So this discrepancy can lead to operational inefficiencies and dissatisfactions among occupants. Engineer Emmanuel has spoken categorically about one thing that has happened. There was an expectation, but the expectation failed because after some time, you discovered certain things were not put in place. This is what we have to change as facilities managers. We have to try as much as possible to change that. So among occupants, highlighting the necessity for better alignment of construction and operation expectations during the handover process. And that is why I'll continue to go back and say that the handover process is a very, very pivotal phase. And we must ensure that it is carried out. So what are some of the issues you have? You have issues with briefing and design. If you don't know what you're taking over, how do you know how to perform at your optimum or optimally when you don't have any idea of what you're taking over? Somebody can just call you and tell you to come and take over this, and then you just go in blindly. So if you're not briefed properly and you don't understand anything about the design, you are bound to have challenges. So shortcomings in the initial briefing and design phases can lead to misaligned objectives that are not effectively communicated. So that's another thing that we have a problem with generally. And I'm not just talking about facility management. I'm talking about Nigeria as a whole. We don't know how to effectively communicate. And please, like I said, and I keep saying, I'm not painting everybody with the same brush, but these are things that in how many years of working or being out there, I have noted these things. Communication is very key, and how we communicate is very important. Very, very important. And not everybody has communication skills, right? Some people are fantastic at their work. They know what they're doing, but they cannot communicate well. They can't explain what it is that they're doing, or they can't even, write a sentence or say a sentence properly for me to understand what exactly it is that you're trying to do. These issues may result in design elements not catering to operational needs, ultimately affecting the building's overall functionality and user satisfaction after completion. The long and short of it is that you need to ensure that the end user is satisfied. Most times that I have gone around and seen, there is always one challenge after the other. There is no way you will not hear that a developer has not done what they're supposed to do. And this is through my interactions. And I can assure you that majority of you here that have taken must have heard this. Oh, they haven't done this. Oh, they haven't done that. And then all of a sudden, you have become the developer. And it's not the developer that they cannot find anymore. It is you, because you're the facility manager and you're there and they see you. So their frustration and everything is poured on you. So coordination gaps with operations. A significant challenge in the handover process is the lack of coordination between the operations teams. Emmanuel has spoken that, he has mentioned it. If there was adequate coordination between the teams, we won't be having some of these issues. Because you as a facility manager, by the time you had seen the design, by the time you had had conversation with each other, you would have known that there's a problem with the plumbing system. So this also is an issue, a major issue. This gap can lead to inadequate operational readiness and training, which compromises the building's ability to meet its intended performance or once occupied. So we have to be able to change these narratives over and over. So when we say handover strategy development, what are we talking about? Strategic planning. You don't just take over a property, you have to be able to plan and understand how you're going to take over. So strategic planning in the handover process ensures that operational performance meets intended objectives from the start, right? Right from the onset. Early adoption of a handover strategy lays the groundwork for smooth transition and the effective facility management. I can't repeat this over and over again. At what point do you have a handover strategy? It is not when you have completed your construction that you're talking about handover. No. In your construction, you have to allocate time for handover because it is expected that the construction company or the developer remains, in quotes, when I say remains, on site or in an estate or whatever we want to call it for a period of time. The handover process is also, in quotes, what some of us may look at as a liability period, right? So when I'm talking about this, I don't expect that the construction company is going to leave site completely. Yes, he may have handed over, but you have to have some sort of agreement in place and say to them, you must be present 6 months, 1 month, 1 year, I don't know, but whatever the time frame is, they still have to have a presence. Why? Let me give you a typical example. If a roof of a building fails before the next rainy season, who is responsible or liable to change that roof? That's one example I'm giving for you or to you. Who is liable to change the roof before the first rainy season? If anything should happen to that roof, who changes it? Who bears the liability for that? If you now decide to do plumbing work, for example, in the estate, you've done the pipes and everything, then all of a sudden, 2 weeks down the line, the pipe you've laid in front of maybe your water station gets cut, damaged, anything could have happened to that pipe. Who takes responsibility of the pipe? There has to be a level of responsibility from the developer or the construction company until such a time where he has handed over the estate or the building or whatever to the end user. It's very key we understand this too. Now, early adoption importance. Implementing a handover strategy early in the project life cycle, this is just what I was talking about, is essential for aligning design and construction with operational needs. Don't forget, the facility manager or the end user, whoever the end user is going to be tasked with the operations of whatever he's taking over. The operations, when we talk about operations, we're talking about the maintenance. You have to maintain your structure. So if you're not able to understand what has been handed over to you, you're going to have challenges with operations or maintenance, if you want to call it that. This proactive approach ensures the budget and resource allocations sufficiently cover all operational requirements, minimizing issues during the transition. So for me, as far as I'm concerned, you should be able to have, what do you call these things? You should be able to have some sort of budget, right? To be able to deal with any issue that comes up during this period. So the long and short of what I'm saying, there has to be a transition period. The transition period, we call that the handover process. When you're doing the handover process, the developer, the construction company has to have some sort of budget to be able to deal with any issue that comes up within the time frame before they finally leave, let me say, the site or whatever we want to call it. So budget allocation considerations. So just before I continue with this, I know there were two people that had their hands up. So let's hear their questions. We'll talk about that, and then we'll move on to that.
Okay, Jeff Emmanuel, please, you can speak. Then the second person is Daniel Obina.
Hi, good morning, all. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma, for this awesome section. I've actually been looking up to it because I'm actually saddled or facing something similar right now, right? So here is it. In Nigeria, we don't have QOQC when a building is done. So developer build and straight off handover to client. Because we don't have a QOQC, it's defect upon defect upon defect.
Correct.
Okay, so I traveled to my parent company in Kenya. They had QOQC when the property is built. So QOQC tests for a period of 1 to 2 months,
yes,
the functionality of the building. Then there is a handover team, QOQC handover to the handover team.
Correct.
They also test this project before they now give to end user. And also, developer gives these properties 1 year warranty.
Mm-hmm.
Now, coming to Nigeria, there was a QOQC, but they were more like toothless QOQC who couldn't do anything. And so a property was handed over. I had that mindset that, okay, in Kenya, I saw how it was done. It's the same thing we're going to do in Nigeria. Lo and behold, when the property was handed over to me, it was problem upon problem upon problem. So as I'm talking to you, in the next 30 days, we are going to hand over a new set of 48 new bedroom buildings. So taking from the lesson learned and taking also from the knowledge I'm going to add here, I've just come to realize we're supposed to have like a budget down for maintenance during that period where the tenants are moving in.
Correct.
That wasn't budgeted at all because, and to be honest with you, one particular tenant moving, it took a nasty mail from that tenant for developer to come back because it's not happened that the tenant is also a major stakeholder.
Yes.
I know I tried managing it, but I now felt, what would I have done better for this not to happen? You know, so that's basically what I'm going through right now.
So let me ask you a question. Have you thought through what you could have done better to handle the situation, or you haven't been able to figure out what to do yet?
Yes. Coming down, these people have a mindset of what facility manager is all about because developer is an expatriate. And so they've not really done anything in Nigeria yet. Mm-hmm. So I have thought through the first 30 days, the first 40 days of what we went through, where we were not supposed to hand over to the homeowners immediately. We were supposed to have test run this, the functionality. Then also the developer needs to put a budget down.
Yes.
And because the mindset of everybody is that there's a service charge. There's a service charge that you should go and touch, which should not be.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
So
already I've put up a plan down on what to do. Like once I finish with you now, I'm going to I'm brainstorming with my overall boss, even in Kenya, that this and this we need to put in place, because we can't just hand over to homeowner. Though we are handing to homeowner by ending of this month, but we should put a maintenance team on ground to test run the facilities
Very
for
good.
functionality. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So
Mm.
I would like to, sorry, what was your name again?
My name is Jeff Emmanuel.
Jeff, so thank you for that. And I just want to say one or two things and hope that it will point you in the right direction.
All right,
Now, like you said, we should get in, and this is general, we need to get into the habit of insisting on what we want done because we are the end user, okay? End user, whether it's the client or the facility manager, because the facility manager in most instances is going to manage that building on behalf of the clients, if that's the agreement you have. So what do? The developer in his, should I say billing, let me say in his billing, right? When he's saying that he wants to end up selling his houses, I would expect, and I'm hoping that if at all we have anybody that is a developer here or wants to do one or two things, they should create a budget and say, okay, it's going to take me, let's say a house is 1 million naira. He should be able to allocate at least 10% of that budget for the handover process or the liability period that you want to call it. And then set a target in terms of the years or the months that you want to hand over, right? So if you now say, in your case, you have said it's 1 year. Yes, I expect them to be there 1 year because ideally you can decide your parameters. And one of the parameters that I would take is your roof, for example. Some people will put roofs and they will tell you they will last 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. I'm just giving an example for you to know how to be able to set maybe parameters on that. It could take, some people will tell you my roof will not fail in 20 years. But there's no developer that would want to be there for 20 years. It's not possible. So you can now say, okay, the parameter I'm going to use is 1 rainy season. 1 rainy season tells you 1 year, okay? So you now say 1 year, I am going to be visible in this period of time. You already know that a budget of 1% of your sale price, if you want to use that as the parameter, will be used for anything that you need to correct in terms of your construction or for the infrastructure or to do whatever you need to correct. So if for example, you're ready to hand over in June 2024, just know that by June 2025, you are still liable to ensure that every single correction is done within that 1 year period. And then you can formally hand over. So the developer cannot leave. It's going to be you, the developer, you, the construction, the developer construction team, the facility manager that you're handing over to. And then you, the developer, still has communication with the end user who has bought from you, who is the client. Remember, the facility manager is the in-between the two. That's normally what happens. They're the ones that are going to take over and manage on behalf of the client. So you must allocate a budget. You must be able to deal with all these issues that crop up within that 1 year, if that is what you have said. It's, for example, for me, if I'm renting out a property to somebody, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check the water. If I'm repairing a house now, I always tell everybody that I'm not going to give you that house until 2 weeks. What am I doing in 2 weeks? I'm making sure that everything is in place. I've put on my water, I'm checking my water, I'm checking my light, I'm making sure I don't have problems with plumbing, electrical, I'm making sure I don't have any problems with sewage, right? And I'm now talking maybe about an existing structure. Making sure that everything is functioning in the house. 2 weeks later, I'll now come and then hand over to the person that has chosen to rent the property. This has to still be the same mindset of the construction company. It is very key that we do that. If not, you're just failing. And then at the end of the day, there's no customer satisfaction. All you will hear at the end of this facility manager doesn't know what he's doing. Oh, this facility manager is not up to the task. How can he be up to the task when he has not been given good infrastructure to deal with. It's not possible. He's not a magician, right? He can't do more than what has been given to you. The saying goes, as a facility manager, you are as good as the facility that has been handed over to you. That's the saying. And like I said, we must begin to change the narrative. We are professionals and we have to act like professionals. So there was one more, Jeff, I hope I answered something for you. I mean, I believe that these are things that you can go back to and start beginning to write to the developer and tell them, this is what we want done. This is what any developer or construction company that wants to maintain his or her name would want to try as much as possible to rectify some of these things. Some of them, the issue is just for them to go build and make their money in the long run. They don't care about the end user. And that shouldn't be, because you don't want to come to a place where you've put all your efforts, you've done this, and then somebody rubbishes your name at the end of the day. It's not good for us. Nigeria, we tend to have a lot of policies in place, but the problem we tend to have is implementation. We don't implement half the things that we say that we want to do. So we have to begin to insist on a lot of things. So let me just move forward a little bit so that we're not dragging too long. So I wrote here, budget allocation considerations. Early identification and allocation of budget for the handover process is crucial. I've spoken about this. And I think I have given a little bit of a scenario on what should be done. For those that are in the construction industry, a lot of you do things called variances. Why do you have variances in your budgets? Why do you take into consideration variances, but you will not take into consideration handover process? Why? Why is that? You're varying because of the challenges in the market. Anything can happen today. The market can change. It's so volatile. And most of us are witnessing that today. So many issues. Today, you say cement costs 7,000 naira. Tomorrow, they will tell you cement is 15,000 naira. So what do you do? How do you manage that? And then you've already given your cost to the people that are buying into your property and telling them, oh, I'm selling this property to you at 1 million naira. But 1 million naira cannot cover the cost anymore. So that's why variances are there, to be able to help you on this. So what is the problem with including a handover budget? It's very key. Ensuring that sufficient funds are designated for operational requirements can prevent resource shortages, resulting in a more efficient handover and optimized building performance. This in itself is a very key thing. And we have to be able to understand these things. So as I move on, sorry, there was one other person that put his hand up. So I will...
Yeah, that's Daniel Obina. I don't know if he's still on the call.
Sorry?
He still has his name is Daniel Obina.
Okay. Okay, no worries. When he comes
Yeah,
back.
good morning. I'm still here.
Okay, Daniel,
yes,
go ahead.
Great.
All right. All right. Good morning, Hajia, Zainab.
Morning.
And everyone. So we have a recent issue or a recent scenario. So recently we have got a site handed over to us. It's a new construction. At the handover process, right? So we tried to ask so many questions. We called for so many documents. We called for, even to the point of the as-built drawing for the facilities that were installed. We asked for the SLAs with the contractors and the likes of it. So we asked so many questions, but I think there's a particular place we failed to maybe pay attention to, right? The pressure testing aspect or results of the installations, because it's a 4-story building, and then it has this conduit piping of water and supplies and the likes of them, gas and the likes of them to all the apartments. So, but what we discovered in the 2 months of managing the apartments is that, or the sites, is that the leakages in that building were so much.
Cool.
We have pipes that were broken inside the deck. So we keep breaking decks, we keep breaking ceilings, we keep rebuilding and doing all of those things. And because we've fully gotten the site, or we fully received the site, the handover process has been completed, we've signed and everything. Now it's impacting on our service charge. Definitely. Because even the allowance we made for maybe failures or repairs on some sort of capital intensive kind of project that would come up in the building for 1 year is not even enough. We've not even gone half of the year, but we've spent all of the money. The annual sinking fund, we're already spending almost everything. So I think, I don't know if there's anything that we needed to do. Is there like a comprehensive list of everything that we need to check as facility managers, you understand, before getting this site handed over to us, especially new sites or even old sites, you understand, because that would do us well. So when I saw this webinar, I was really very happy because, I mean, I didn't know stuff as little as pressure testing would be so much impactful on our delivery as a facility management. So I'm really thankful for this webinar, and I hope that by the end of this webinar, I'll be able to get more knowledge on this. And, you know, if you can provide us with slides and everything as well, too, that would help. And
okay, you see why I say that this webinar needs to be interactive, because as we talk about our problems, we'll be able to find solutions, and then it will impact on everybody. Now, you, Daniel, talked about the documentation. If you see my slide there, it says required documentation. So this is just very apt. A well-documented handover process includes comprehensive records, such as operation manuals, warranty information, and maintenance schedules. Proper documentation streamlines the transition to facilities management and ensures all operation requirements are effectively addressed. So you've got that aspect of it. Now, I'm going to go back a little to what I was saying a little bit earlier, and this is what you have to inculcate. And that is the handover period and the time that you're actually going to sign off. We have to learn, and unfortunately, it's coming to you at a bit, how do I say, at a costly. It's coming to you in terms of the monies you have supposedly collected from service charge to be able to deal with defects on the building. This should never have been the case. The issue is, the long and short of it, that building should have taken its time in terms of testing of all these things before you complete the handover process. So what I'm saying is that you've got the handover period, right? Let's say, like I said, the construction company says to you that they want to hand over June 30th. You agree, you've come to conclusion, you've said, okay, yes, you're going to hand over. However, between June and, let's say, the end of the year, right? But because another thing that you also have to do is that you can't continue to hold on to the property indefinitely without handing over to the actual end user. Okay, so what I'm saying is the client at the end of the day. So the period is key. So you can, it all depends now on communication. So for example, if a developer says to you that they're going to hand over your property in 18 months, I don't expect that you're going to hand over, how do I say, without including a transition period, right? So that 18 months should have had some sort of transition period in there. So what would have happened? In 12 months, your construction should have reached a certain level, or you have finished your construction. 6 months should be the period where you are testing your building of what you're going to hand over in the 18 months. I don't know if we can all understand what it is I'm saying. That there should have been a 6-month period where you are testing your building continuously before you're going to hand over finally in the 18 months. And I'm saying this because this is an ideal situation, ideally, but we never have ideal situations in construction. It's not possible. Anything can happen. But you have to have something documented in your communication to say, yes, I'm handing over in 18 months, but you know that whoever you're handing over, there's got to be a transition. There's got to be a stage where you're testing your buildings. So for example, now, Daniel, if you had had that period where you are able to test these buildings, you may not be able to, you may not have gotten to a position where you're using your service charge to fix what is a construction problem. because you've signed off. That construction company will never come back. Unless it is somebody that you know has a heart. I don't know how else to call it. They feel something within themselves and say, yeah, we haven't really done this properly. Let us just go back and help. Because the truth of the matter is that you are not meant to use your service charge to fix defects on your buildings. That is meant to offer the services and maintenance of what it is that has been handed over to you. The sinking fund that you're talking about is not meant for construction work. It is meant for you to gather it as a pool of funds. So eventually, when you're getting to a stage where you have to change armored cables, for example, in the estate or in the facility, you would have had that money saved over a period of time for you to be able to change that armored cable. I don't expect that the armored cable is put in the ground and then 2 days later, I have to change it. No. Armored cable should be able to last you 5 years, if it's good quality, 6 years, 10 years. And you know that over the period of time, you have been able to collect enough money with the sinking funds to be able to replace a certain length of that armored cable. I'm just giving an example. So the issue is you can't go back to the developer. And like I said, it's only if it's somebody that feels that they're a bit, you can open up a chain of communication with them and tell them these are the issues that we found before handover. They may honor you, they may not honor you. And the reason why they may choose not to honor you is because you've signed off. Once you sign off, they have no obligation anymore. Do you understand? But there's nothing stopping you from saying, oh, we noted this after so. It's even good for you to have it documented, right? Not necessarily mean that they will do anything about it, but it's also good. Oh, unfortunately, when we took over and we signed after so period, we began to notice this. This is for your information. We would appreciate the fact that you can be able to help us deal with this matter. But even if they don't, at least you have communicated it to them. Yeah, I feel that may be a way to go. But unfortunately, you may not be able to deal with this. So in the long run, you may have to go back to the residents and be able to look at a costing and maybe increase your sinking funds to be able to deal with these issues. Maybe we'll have a little bit more on that. Okay, so I think this is something that you will have to look into, Daniel. It's quite unfortunate, but that's just the situation on ground. And the issue is that I can just imagine the back blow that is coming to you as a facility manager, you know, because I mean, they're probably not there anymore. They don't even know what is going. So let's talk about the best practices for a successful handover. So when we talk about a successful handover process, you know, we've already heard that it's very crucial for achieving high operational performance and enhancing the residency experience, you know. And it's very important that effective practices such as a comprehensive information transfer, stakeholders, investments, you know, and a continuous focus on operations can significantly bridge the gap between the construction and the management. So this is very key. This particular best practices are key. And I know that having this conversation as we've been going along, we've talked about a lot of things. Now, one of the first things I'm going to say is early involvement of facility managers. The construction industry has to change that mindset and stop thinking that they can do everything. No. A facility manager has to be part of the construction team. When you're putting a team together, one space should be for the facility manager. You've called an engineer. And what I mean by that, you have different engineers. So you would have had your mechanical and electrical engineer. You would have had your structural engineer. You would have had your quantity surveyor, right? Who are part of the team. You will have the architect who is part of your team. The architect can also be the project manager, or you may decide to, you know, actually get a project manager for that. You may have a builder on your team. The next person that should be part of that team should be your facility manager. Whoever it is, the facility manager is that you're going to engage. but that person needs to be involved in the design phase of any project. So when you engage facilities managers early in the project life cycle, ideally during the design and construction phases, as I've mentioned, this allows them to understand the property layout, its systems, and potential operational challenges. So it's very key that you have to have these people on board when you're doing this. So the early involvement also enables facility managers to offer feedback on design. Because, you know, sometimes our architects, our engineers may miss something, because the way I may have to manage a particular system in a facility, right, may be completely different with the design. I've seen it in so many places where people have forgotten to put water pipe maintenance holes. How do I do that? Recently, we had to do some clearing in one of our estates because there was, how do I say, somebody's property was flooding big time. So we ended up having to dig certain areas to be able to find out the root cause of the problem. Would you believe if I tell you today that a huge maintenance hole was covered? If we had known of the existence of that maintenance hole, right, we may not have reached the position where we got to in terms of the flooding. Because if we had known the position of the maintenance hole, we would have been able to open it up and deal with whatever we had to do. So when you don't have proper documentation, and these are the drawings and all, this is where problems begin. Or you begin to have problems that will now become something else where they didn't have to be. And that is because you are not there, or because you have not been given the proper documentation to guide you through all these places. So your own maintenance ducts, for example, may not be considered if you're not there to tell them, no, I need it to be 3 feet by 2 feet or 2 feet by 5 feet. So it gives me enough space for a staff of mine to be able to crawl through the duct, to be able to deal with certain things along the duct. They may not see in their design, they may say, oh, we only need 1 by 2, somebody's hand can reach. But for example, it may not be an issue of a hand, a whole body has to enter. I'm just giving examples, or I'm just, just saying this so that you can understand the importance of having a facility manager as part of your team. And we have to be able to engage them to be able to do this. So that is one. When we now talk about a detailed handover plan, develop a detailed handover plan with timelines, responsibilities, and specific milestones. So, Jeff, I hope you're hearing some of these things, because these are things that you're going to have to implement. It's better late than never to be able to have some of these things in place. This plan should include everything from snagging.
Yes, ma'am.
Everything from snagging. You have to learn to snag your buildings. I also do hotels. We snag almost all the time to understand what the issues are, almost on a weekly basis. We have to snag our rooms. What's happening here? Anything can happen in the room. Something can happen. I may decide to paint the room, maybe because somebody has drawn on the walls, but you have to snag so that you can understand. Somebody may come into the hotel today and then he spoils the tap, for example. If I don't snag and if I don't know what I'm doing, then I may not know that I have to change the tap. So it's very important that we do this snagging. This is very important for it. So when you do this, it identifies and helps you rectify minor defects. To full systems testing, now we're back there again, to ensure all elements of the estate are functional before handover. This is why I will continue to say over and over again that the handover process is extremely critical. And we must ensure that when we're dealing with construction companies or a developer, we must insist that we must have a handover phase. It's very key, please. It's very, very key. Then this issue of thorough, and I'm just talking about the best practices, thorough documentation. We've talked about this. So prepare comprehensive documentation, including operations and or your manuals, your operational manuals, warranty, service contract, SLAs, as built drawings, please. Let's try as much as possible to get them. And then another thing we shouldn't forget is emergency plans. How many developers, and I'm not talking within Nigeria, sometimes consider emergency plans? How many? How many? How many of you in your estates actually know or have seen that firefighting equipment have been part of the design stage? How many of you know where your hydrants are, if any? So if a fire comes out or happens, happens today, do you have fire hydrants that can deal with such situations? So these are things that are very, very important. And please don't forget, emergency plans. You have to have documentation on this. So ensure that the documentation is easily accessible and organized for quick reference. A digital format will be good because we're now moving to such a stage, and at such cloud-based facility management, and you streamline access and tracking. Conduct comprehensive inspection and testing. Please, please, please. Let us make sure that this part has to be part of our handover. That stage remains key. I keep repeating myself because I really want this to stick in our heads. When we're engaging these developers, let's be in the position to be able to let them know that this is what we want. It is not an issue of what they want. It's also an issue of what we want, so that in the long run, operations becomes easier for us, and then the customer at the end of the day is satisfied. That is what you want at the end of the day, satisfaction for the customer that is going to be living in that building or in that house. Because you don't want, I can assure most of you here that are facility managers, just asking all of you here, I know that you have been insulted one way or the other because of an end user that is not happy about something. That is not your fault. I am sure that all of you here have experienced something like that. And we don't want that. We're tired of all that. So comprehensive information transfer. Transferring detailed and organized information is essential for an effective handover. This includes manuals, maintenance, schedules. We've talked about this, yeah? So this is very important. At least we know that. Engaging all relevant stakeholders throughout the project ensures the different perspectives and requirements addressed. Regular communication with clients. We're back here again, back here. Communication is so key. And remember, the facility manager does not start off the communication when construction is going on. It is the developer or the construction company until it eventually gets to you, because it's at the handover stage that you're beginning to prepare what you're going to communicate to the end user. I'm not saying you shouldn't have the documentation ahead of time. That's not what I'm saying. You should have all these things ready. But I'm just saying your communication process will begin around the handover period. That is when you're going to start engaging. It's very, 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 very key. And I will continue to say this as we go along. Yeah. Sorry, I just went off. And of course, so you just make sure that you don't have any misunderstandings as you're going along. So this communication is very key. So what are we talking about? Continuous focus on operational performance. Maintaining a focus on operational performance from project to inception helps identify potential issues. So we've talked about this in, well, as we've been talking about, we're going through the webinar. So by integrating and performance matrices into the design and construction phases makes handover effective, it enhances it, leading to improved building longevity, and then, of course, user experience. So a seamless handover plays a critical role in shaping the residency experience, directly influencing comfort, satisfaction, and operational efficiency. Effective communication and processes ensure that residents feel confident about their living environment from day one. This is what we want. We don't want the hassle of somebody coming day in, day out. Oh, my pipe in my house has broken. The wall has a crack on it. Or my electrical cables are not functioning. oh, I'm getting shocked from one place to the other. When I touch the walls, something is shocking me. I don't know what is going on. So these are very key. So the impact, let's go to the impact of effective handover on residents. An effective handover minimizes disruptions and ensures all systems are operational upon occupancy. Residents benefit from clear information about building features, enhancing their living experience and confidence in management. I want to go over that a little bit. It does not mean that you don't know what you're doing. It is when you're having issues and problems with your buildings or your structures or whatever it is that you begin to have issues with the client at the end of the day. And they will call you all sorts of names. But like I said, it is not your fault. These are challenges that have come into play and have not been dealt with right from the onset. And that is why I'll continue to say the handover process. I keep going back to this and drumming it into your heads that the handover process is extremely key. So let's continue to work towards that and ensure that we can make them do this. So we've talked about snagging and rectification in terms of that. So once you're able to have all these things put in place, you've just dealt with facility operations management, which is the proper handover establishes clear operational protocols. It just makes things easy for you. A well-structured transition ensures management teams understand building systems, enabling effective maintenance and responsiveness. It is clear. It will always help you in the long run. Long-term performance monitoring. After handover, you'll continue to monitor. So you've handed over the building to you, and then you continue to look at how the building performs, or the estate performs, or whatever it is that is being taken. You have to continue looking at it, because you can't understand a building in one day. You can't understand a building in 1 month. It's not possible. You have to understand how it functions as time goes on. A new building, in most instances, is going to have challenges. There's no way. And that is why that period remains and will continue to remain critical, because that is the time you're going to look at your buildings and understand your buildings. And if any rectification needs to take place, that is the point in time that it's going to take place. So, conclusion and future directions. The handover process is vital for ensuring that a building operates as intended after construction. A well-structured conclusion highlights key takeaways and sets the stage for continuous improvement in facility management practices. So what are the key takeaways? The handover process bridges construction and operational management, ensuring buildings meet intended performance. Early integration of handover strategy, effective information transfer, and collaboration among stakeholders are vital for success. So let's look into this. And like I said, we have to be the one to change the narrative. I don't think that anybody is really going to do it for us. And I want us to always put it at the back of our minds and our heads that facility management is a profession. We are an established profession worldwide. So let's continue to improve upon ourselves. Let's continue to read, please. That's another thing that we have to inculcate, and that is to have a reading habit. But, and I always say this all the time, experience remains the best teacher. So for us that we've been in this industry for over 20 years, I can come up and give experience and tell you, this is what I've gone through. This is what I've been able to do to change the situation. It may not be the best, but I was able to achieve something with it. You and I, or you and your colleague or somebody else, may have a better way of dealing with that same situation. If we don't talk about it, we will not learn. So we have to learn from each other. And that is one of the reasons why, as an association, we're trying as much as possible to put a lot of things in place so that all our facility managers can learn from us. That's why we're doing these webinars. That's why we're trying as much as possible to have more conferences so that we learn and we become good at what we're doing. Or should I say better? Let me not say good. Let me say better at what we do, right? So let's look into all this. Continuous coordination between construction teams and facility management ensures that all operational requirements are met. This ongoing relationship facilitates smoother transitions, and it will always enhance building performance over time, right? So these are key issues. One thing I want to add, provide a point of contact for post-over support or post-over hand. Yes, you must have that bit. So you've done handover, but there still is what we call post-handover. There's still a little stage there. And that is still to have the presence of the developer until such a time that they leave completely from site. So assign a contact person. It could be a team. It could be anybody to support and address all these issues. This ongoing support can help with troubleshooting any unexpected issues. So after handover, you've signed all your documentation, you've done whatever, how do I say, checks that you need to check. You've done your final handover. And then you can now have, okay, this team is going to be here for you to help you with such issues. I'm only going to give them to you for an additional 3 months. After 3 months, just an example, after 3 months, I'm handing over completely, and I'm not going to be involved again. So these are things that we have to continue to look into. So future strategies. Adopting innovative technologies and sustainable practices will be crucial for improving the handover process. One thing I know is that we don't like change generally. We really don't. And it's about time that we need to start looking at more technology to help us to make our job easier, right? I've looked at so many facility management systems that can be implemented, but sometimes you notice that we still prefer to do the old way of doing things. We have to change that. The world is going digital or has gone digital, and whether we like it or not, we have to catch up. So implementing digital tools for documentation, for example, and performance monitoring. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of BIM and all those systems that are already in place to help with your buildings, especially when you have smart buildings. All these things are of importance, and it can enhance your efficiency and accountability. So I want us to stop here for now. And if there are any questions, please let's go on. And I will continue to bring in 1 or 2 things as we go along. So I think, Gideon, I want to stop here. And I want to say thank you to everybody for staying on for this long. Because to be very honest, it's a very critical stage. And like I said, by the time we talk through this, some of you will be able to get ideas on how to deal with certain things in your organization. So thank you all for staying on this call for this long. I mean, it's a good thing. And let's continue to brainstorm. So please go ahead. I know there are a couple of people that had raised their hands.
Yeah.
And we'll answer these questions as best as we can.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ma, for your time. Thank you for dishing out wisdom, knowledge, experience to us. I have the hands of Mr.
And Gideon, please,
Oluwafemi.
if there's anything that is not clear, please, you can ask anybody.
Definitely.
Yeah, they can always ask, please.
Yeah, we have about 5 minutes now for questions as we round up, and just the hands that are up are the hands I'm going to take before we make our announcement and close for the day. So we have 2 hands up. Mr. Oluwafemi, please, you can speak. Then we'll take Engineer Silas. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Gideon. We want to appreciate our Manager. Thank you very much for always being there for us. So I want to just ask And on one side, ask question. On the other side, put small input of my practical experience. So let me start with the practical experience. I remember very well while coming up in this industry, I was in a joint management with Dr. MKO. We took over Safecourt Apartments then in Salem. We were part of the project team. We were always at the site, monitoring the site, seeing what is happening. In fact, we started from design stage. We're always monitoring what is happening. I discovered that being part of the project team really helped us when we were taking over. We took over with so many documents. Dr. MKO can still remember how it was still schooling us then. So most of the advantages then was that we attend to issues almost on the spot. Because if there are issues in a particular house, once we are told the issue, we know where to go in the dot. We don't need to start running up and down for the guys to come. Then one other thing we did was that for like 1 year, all the contractors, the subcontractors, they still have their personnel. Two personnel was still with us. So it makes the job very easy. Then I want to address is it Mr. Jeff now that was using service charge for the building during those periods. The contractors then we had a different liability period for like 6 months. The contractor are the ones asking us whenever there are issues that pertain to structure or even leakages, we call them, they come in and do the fixing. So that's how we're able to. So it's very important, man. If there's a forum for us to always clamor on having facility managers on the design stage during the construction so that it can be easy for us to do maintenance. Because just as you have said, the facility manager is as good as the building that is being handed over to you. If you hand over a good building, I will can do it. So one of the things is I also have our own documentation and management strategies too. Then go to my question. You mentioned that we should have 6-month testing before you hand over to the end user. So now I want to ask. I remember very well we had this issue with the Safecourt. People had subscribed. End users are subscribed before the actual construction started. So we had end users that were coming every day. And people have not finished. Are you still at this stage? Are you still at that stage? Oh, I want to move in. I want to move in. So I want to ask, will the end user have that patience for me as a facility manager after the developer has told them, I have finished your construction? Is the facility manager that is testing for 6 months, that is testing for 2 weeks, so it's left with you and facility manager. So how do we handle that? That's number one. That's number one. Then number two, we should tell our marketers, those of us that do development and have marketers to advertise development. Don't worry, in the next 6 months, your location will be ready. Just come and take your papers. The house is ready. We should always manage time because during development, you may say you are going to develop for 18 months. Unforeseen circumstances, like what happened during NSAS, can delay the project. So we should always try to manage time with the end user because the end user are always on the move to come and take over. So thank you very much, man, once again for your time. I've really learned a lot from your presentation. Thank you, man.
Okay, so before we go to other questions, I just want to respond to Oluwafemi. First and foremost, I'd like to say this. Sometimes we've reached a situation where the developer or the construction company will not invite us. So what I'm just trying to say in essence is that if within yourselves, you know that you have gotten the job as the facility manager, most times or sometimes you find that they're not going to invite you to come. So what do? I always tell people, go and poke nose. You know you have the job is yours. Put yourself there. Be following them up and down, whether they want you there or they don't want you there. Because the long run is that site or that building is going to be handed over to you. You know that already. So why wouldn't you want to understand your building or your estate or whatever it is? That's why I say poke nose. The reason I'm saying this is that, and I'm not saying that you should just jump onto somebody's site or that you have no contract with or anything. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that if you know at the end of the day, you are the facility manager that is going to take over that property. You've maybe signed your agreements, you've had your conversations, and you're very sure, and it's been signed off that you're taking over. The day you have signed and you know that you're going, carry your boots and your hard hat and be following them on site. I'm telling you, this is my advice to you guys. And like I said, it takes that special construction company or developer to say, yes, they want a facility management manager involved. Remember, most of the times, they haven't included us as part of their design team. Most of us, we've not been included. Or should I say facility managers have not been included in the design team. And we're hoping that that narrative should change. But in the interim, for now, as long as you know you're the one taking over that facility, go and poke nose yourself. Be following them, be understanding, because it will help you in the long run. And sometimes it is at that point where you've involved yourself and you have a good rapport. No, this is not going to work like this. Please change it like this. Because I know when I come to do maintenance here, it is better for me to do it this way. And there's every possibility they will see reason with that and correct it there and then. It is not at the stage where they have left and they have gone, and they're not there anymore to help you. You're going to be saddled with this problem. So it is better that you poke nose and you know what is going on. And as you're going, make sure you get all your documentation in place. Now, Femi, I was just giving a period for 6 months. And like I said, the communication must come from the developer, whoever it is that is selling. If the developer communicates, or the end user or the stakeholder at the end of the day has been told that his property is going to be handed over to him in 18 months, right? That 18 months should have included a testing phase. It should be included. It is not an afterthought. You can't be in the construction industry and you are not testing your building. It's not possible. Your handover should categorically have a period for testing. It must be there. It has to be included in the handover. So I don't expect at the end of the day, a construction company that knows his worth will now tell you it's between you and the facility manager. No. How can he just hand over a building and he has not tested the building? It's not possible. So your delivery time must have included a testing phase. It must be there. So I'm just using 18 months as an example. It's just an example. And 6 months doesn't have to be the time with which the construction company is going to use to test. I was just giving a figure. They can decide it's 3 months. They can decide it's 2 months. It depends. There's some construction companies that know their worth. They know exactly what it is they're doing. And then they know that it will only take them 2 months to be able to test all these facilities. Some will insist, no, I want to be sure because I don't want palaver at the end of the day. Some do 6 months. Some will tell you categorically that they're going to deliver their project to you in 24 months. And maybe in 1 year, they are doing testing. It's very possible. So it just depends on the developer and the construction company. You can't be testing a product after you have sold it. It's like me now going to go and buy a car. I've bought the car and then I'm now testing. The company is now wanting to test the car after they've sold it to me. No. They have to test the car before they put it on the market. That's what is expected of them. So that is what I'm just trying to say to you. The end user, and that is where the communication is very key. The end user must be communicated the time frame of when the building is going to be handed over to him. Within that period of the handover to the end user, you must have a period for what testing and whatever things you need there. I hope that has answered you, Femi.
All right. Thank you, Ma. Very quickly, we'll move to Engineer Silas. Mr. Wale, okay, you are back on. I saw you on hand one time. I always want us to, because of time, let's just go straight to the question so that our facilitator can answer very quickly while we're watching the time. Engineer Silas, you can speak, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Gideon. And that's our vintage Hajia, anytime, any day. I really appreciate that. It's always difficult to ask you a question because you are very thorough. And practically everything one would have loved to ask, you've even answered it in the course of the response to Mr. Femi. But again, I just want to say something also to validate or at least to agree with what you just said. And another dimension. You see, FM services is very dynamic, which we all know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't apply. It's not one size fits all. Now, for some construction companies, they have everything in their team, even FM people as well that will do that, even when they have to do. But then we also have a challenge for FM companies. They struggle to get the brief. In the course of struggling to get the brief, that is to get the job, we tend to downplay so many things because, everybody's competing, whatever it takes, we must get this job. And as such, within that period, nobody's thinking straight again. Then when you've taken the site, problem comes. You start, we should have done that, we shouldn't have done that. But one other thing very critical is as-built drawings. Every FM, any job you're taking, please ask for as-built drawings and get it. And then again, too, there's another big challenge. We notice that a company starts construction and takes 10 years to complete. Maybe that's a delay. Then again, another company comes and takes over that project. It's terminated and all that. Many of them will go with their drawings. Then there will be a whole lot of modifications. So you now have partly original design, partly modified designs and all that. So FM should take note of that. Take historical record of any facility we're taking over is very, very important. That will help us to minimize so many of these challenges, and then again, know who to turn to. And that also comes to our own staffing. If we are recruiting for FMs, it's important to get well-experienced people, experienced civil engineer, experienced electrical engineer, experienced mechanical engineer, and all that, so that they can also look at the buildings or the facility and then see where necessary to make amends and then have our own new design. I've seen a couple of properties, buildings that, in fact, the moment the FM took over, we have to invite some of us to come and look. Okay, fine, look at this thing again, or invite other people to come and look at it again because they have challenges. One experience, time will not allow me to relay that, but let me just briefly summarize it. In Parkview, this building has been on. A facility manager management company has taken over, only to notice a lot of leakages. By the time we now looked into the roof, all the woods that were used, termite has eaten so many of them up, and then you see this caving in. So it will now require that they have to now re-roof again and all that. And you can believe me, it's not a walk in the park because people have already moved in over a year and so on. So it's important that FMs should thoroughly examine any facility they're taking, especially if the FM company is not related or maybe a subsidiary of the construction company. I think I'd like to stop here. And once again, Haja, thank you so much for the incisive and insightful discussion you've given to us today. Thank you, Ma.
You're most welcome, engineer. I just want to buttress on what he's saying. And, generally, and I think this is just an appeal to all of us, it's very, very key that we understand what we're taking over. And let's not be in a rush to take over. Yes, I know we want to take over businesses. Yes, we want to be in that space. Yes, we want to earn. But you don't want to get into a situation where it now becomes a problem for you because you have not done, in quotes, your due diligence on the property that you want to take over. I have had to reject some sites, not because I don't want to, but because there are certain things that are not in place and we don't want to deal with the headache. We don't want to. Because I can assure you at the end of the day, who is going to, developer, who is talking about developer or construction company? You, the facility manager, will be the target of everybody's anger. You don't know what you're doing. Can't do anything here. I have sites like that, or I have estates like that. And that is not true. It's not as if they don't know what they're doing. It's because of what has been handed over to you, or because the developer or the construction company has not done their work properly. And that is why and I'll still keep going back, that handover stage is very important. Some people get to a position where they actually have to ask a facility manager to go. Why are they asking them to go? And sometimes you need to look at the background and understand why. Oh, the facility manager doesn't know how to do this, or he doesn't know how to do. Who told you? What is on ground that he doesn't know how to do this or do that? And you go back and you look at it and you find that most instances, it's an issue of construction or something was not done right in the first place. So let's, like engineer has said, historical background of a property is very important. You have to understand that. You have to find a way. I'm not saying that you are not going to get into situations where you're going to take over the property from somebody, or they've built something, somebody has handed over, they're not happy and they're moving to another company. There will always be instances like that. But look at the history. Try and understand what has happened. Don't go into it blindly. Always ensure that you understand first what you're getting yourself into. Please, these are very key things. Gideon.
Yes,
think
ma'am. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm here. Before I call Mr. Femi again, Mr.
there was
Wale.
somebody else. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Wale, very quickly. We have 10 minutes. We want to round up. Very quickly, Mr. Wale, if you are still on the call, please speak within a minute and a half, your questions or contributions. Also, I want to use this opportunity to let us know that there is a form on the group chat that has been going up for a while now. It's important that you fill it if you need us to reach back to you, particularly for those who are requesting for slides. I want to emphasize very well that going forward in AFMPN, we are trying to put our slides in our learning portal, in our LMS. So for our members, they'll be able to access all of these, our webinars, our workshops, and all of these things. So we may not be sending out slides, but our members will be able to get that on the app portal, which is almost done with development. So please kindly fill out those forms. It helps to note your CPDs and all the likes. Thank you very much. Mr. Wale, if you are not on the call, Mr. Femi, do you want to speak very quickly in a minute and a half before I call Mr. Abel? And after Mr. Abel, we won't be calling any other person.
Sorry, my hand is not up, sir.
Okay, your hand is no longer up. Okay, that's fine. Thank you, sir. Mr.
Yes.
Abel, please speak.
Thank you very much, Hadia, for a very good session today. I just want to add, there are some of us still that are both in the facility management and also in the other aspects. Some are engineers and they still do other construction aspects, and we still do facility management. So I think I would also advise that when some of us are involved in the aspect of the construction, we should always also think about the facility management. That's the life cycle of the building. Because if we just think because maybe we have clients and then this is what they want and we don't advise them accordingly, it ends up falling back on our heads. So most times what I do is, if I am in the team that is in the construction, I always advise those doing the work, because I put the management, the future management of that particular property or building or whatever in mind. So always you advise them and you make sure that all that they do is in line with how the end user is going to enjoy the use of that particular building or property. And even as because I also do construction, so I have some examples of buildings that when I do, there was one I did, I think 2022. And after I finished, I did my testing and then I handed over. And up till today, nobody has called me and said even a switch had issues. But others that are just after just the construction, because I was thinking of the maintenance in my mind while I was doing the construction. But others were just thinking of only what they are going to do in the construction phase. And at the end of the day, they had issues. They were calling them to do one thing or the other. So most times it's like that. And then there are some buildings that you get that are aged. There was one that was called to say, come and access so that we can manage it. When I went to access the building, I discovered this building cannot even be managed at all. Just like what Hajia was saying, I just told them this building cannot be managed because there are so many issues with the building. It was about it's about an 8-story building. So at the end of the day, what I had to advise them to do was, and which I thank God the client accepted, was that they need to now do an overhaul of the building. And I assisted them in making sure they get all that needed to be done in the building, and then they now awarded it to a company to do it before it is managed. So sometimes we just need to be proactive and then know how to talk to clients and others around to make sure that we promote the management and then make it easier for those that are managing. Even if we are not managing, we make it easier for those that will be managing the properties. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
that, Abel. I think you've really reached on a lot of key points, which I agree with. For a lot of us that are wearing the double caps as per engineers and all that, you also have to wear the cap of a facility manager. I also believe that the people that are already in that phase, that are already engineers and whatnot, you will understand the issues pertaining to maintenance in the long run. So it's always good that when you are in that space and you know that you have a flare or you are a facility manager, I would expect that you will remove to a certain extent your engineering cap and take on your facility management cap. As an engineer, you will already know what you need to put in certain places. You will just go the extra mile to ensure that you make things easy for the would-be facility manager, whoever it is that is going to take over in the long run. So Abel, your points are very clear. And I think that these are things that needs to be take home for all of us. It's not all about just, handing over your building or whatever at the end of the day, but we actually have to be able to put ourselves in the position of the end user and make it viable, and customer-centric for the end user at the end of the day. So Gideon, before maybe I conclude, is there anything else that you want to say so that we don't keep anybody any longer?
All right, thank you. Yeah,
and if there's any information they need, they can just, send out an email. And then if there are any questions or something, so that I can also respond, so we don't take too much of everybody's time.
Yeah, as we round up now, thank you very much, Ma, for the insights and the knowledge you have shared with us. For any other question at any point in time, our email is open, info@afmpn.org. For those who are not our members, you can email us there. And for our members, you could quickly just put up a chart to the secretariat's number 0903 1154972. At any point in time, the number is on our group chat. You could leave a message asking a question. Aja is one of us in the association and one of the executives. She's more than willing to answer our questions at any point in time. Also, finally, I want us to anticipate our next webinar. It's going to be on monetary policy. We're an expert. So from all of us here in AFMPN, on behalf of President and the BOT, the Chairman Board of Trustees, we say thank you, Ajia. Thank you, everyone, for being on this call. It's almost 2 hours, and wow, almost on stage. Thank you very much.
I
Yeah.
just want to say thank you so much to each and every one of you. I mean, you've been a great audience. And like he's rightly said, please feel free to ask your questions, and then of course we'll respond to you. So we look forward to our next webinar. And please, for any time you get this information, please join, please. It's very key that we develop ourselves. We're all learning. So we need to get to a position where we're all experts, you know, and the way you become an expert is for you to learn and, you know, keep reading, keep understanding, keep gaining experience, and you can continue to get that. And this is one of the forums where you interact with your peers and you'll be able to get information. So I want to say to each and every one of you, thank you so much for staying on for 2 hours. It's not a joke. On a Saturday, thank you so much. And I'll be talking to you very soon again. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Gideon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ajia. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Just use our
Bye,
virtual,
everyone.
Thank you.
virtual
Thank you very
hands to
much.
clap. You can use the virtual hands to clap. You can use the virtual hands to clap.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Yes.
everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you,
Enjoy
dear.
the rest
You're
of
welcome. Thank
the rest
you.
of your day. Yeah. Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.